Hello, CROs and experimentation specialists. It's Richard Joe back again, CXL Certified Optimizer. And today I'm going to be talking about the surprising science behind successful calls to action. And as optimizers, we know what a call to action is. We're all pretty familiar with it. Uh, for those of you who are rolling your eyes right now, this is not um, a video about button colors and red versus green and those sort of things. Although there might be some edge cases where those things can improve conversion rates, but let's be honest, there is a psychology behind calls to action, and that psychology is based on real science. So let's get into it, and I'll just explain some of the science behind calls to action, and not promising anything in this video that by changing your calls to action with certain verbs or whatever is going to increase your conversion rates by 1,000,000%. But you never know. It's always good to test things, and if it increases in conversion and customer experience by even a minimal percent, then hey, it's better than doing nothing, right? So let's get into this. The other thing is, if you stick to the end, I'll give you some real world case studies where well-known brands actually did make small changes that had large or shall I say extra proportional change regards to the effort. Okay, so the first sort of thing that I'm going to be talking about is that specificity beats vagueness. And, when you're being specific about describing anything, you're actually painting a mental picture in the mind of the person, in the mind of the consumer. Say, for example, you have a call to action that says "get started" versus "get your free strategy session." Well, the first one is very sort of vague and like "get started." Well, get started on what? Like there could be anything. Whereas the second one is it's a bit more compelling because you're being a bit more specific about what they're going to about what they expect to get, right? So get your free strategy session. That implies that if they click the CTA button and fill out a form or whatever, they're going to get that free strategy session. Whereas get started, it's like, well, get started doing what? It could be anything. It's very open ended. The other thing is the principle that action verbs they actually prime your brain to they prime the, I think it's the prefrontal cortex of the brain. Um, Literally kind of primes it to move and do something. I think that's just how we're wired. And words like get, discover, claim, those sort of things tend to work better than boring stuff like submit or other sort of more passive type verbs. The other thing the third thing I want to discuss is that urgency is also important, and the nuance here is having some sort of sense of urgency, but without like the undue pressure. Like people still want to feel like they are doing something within their own agency, and just again how we're wired up, we will tend to be biased towards loss aversion as opposed to gain. So, for example, CTA, secure your spot for a webinar or whatever, feels there's more of a sense of urgency there than there is for sign up. Secure spot implies that there's some sort of limitation there. Like there's only a few seats, that sort of things. That's our fear of missing out sort of part of the brain. The other thing is, it's good to focus on the benefit, not just the action. So, people don't want to just download a guide or ebook. They want to learn how they can grow their sales or revenue. And so you always want to frame it around, what can they get out of it? Another thing is that contrast and placement do matter. And again, like, I'm probably going to be get excessively negative comments here, but button colors and things like that, or button placements, they can have a psychological effect. It's not the be all and the end all, but we humans, we have emotions. We are affected by color. For instance, the red does have in certain cultures, they'll see that as being very tends to have a very bold effect, and a very sort of passionate or emotive effect compared to maybe other colors. So I wouldn't focus primarily on that, but you could add that into your sort of thought processes there. I'll leave it up to you. But yeah, just standing out and being visually standing out with how your CTAs are, it can have an effect. It can get them to stop scrolling, and also the placement of them, like where they're placed above the fold, and if they're placed at multiple places within your landing page story, does help to remind the user that they need to take this action which you're trying to get them to do. So next video, we're going to go through a few real life case studies, and stick around, and I'll just tell about these case studies, go through the actual websites and their results. See you on the other side. G'day, it's me back again. If you've stayed till the end of this video, I promised I would give you some examples of 3 well-known brands that have successfully implemented scientifically backed experimentation for their CTA buttons. And the first one we're going to look at is Amazon.com. And Amazon's one of the OG e-commerce retailers that's been around since 1994. They're well known for doing a bucket load of experimentations, and they've been in that game for a long time. So the first thing I want to show is the experiment that they did on the CTA button. It was actually add to cart, which was the original, versus buy now with one click. Now, I can't actually go and show you that on a live website. I don't know what why that is the case. I guess maybe, and I don't want to risk it on my personal account, but they may have changed the buy now with one click to just simply buy now. That's my guess, but I don't want to risk doing this on a live actual call and inadvertently end up buying a $99 pair of sneakers and having to explain that to my wife. So what I'll show you is just a image from Google where they implemented the buy now with one click, and they found that the buy now with one click, it actually dramatically increased conversion by basically reducing the friction from the buyer wanting to buy it at that point in time, having that impulse to actually going and actually purchasing the thing. And I don't have the actual results here, but the takeaway would be that if we can reduce the friction or the steps between user intent, especially if they're very high intent, and to them actually getting confirmation that they've got the thing, then that's a really good thing, especially when it comes to e-commerce, where generally speaking, the less steps to getting what you want to have as a user, generally the better you're going to have in terms of funnel drop offs, reducing, and people bouncing off and those sort of things. So this was a very successful test. Whatever the results were, just go and Google it because I don't know what they were. So the next one we're going to look at is unbounce.com. And with Unbounce, what we had is we actually had a they basically originally started off with start your free trial versus see plans and pricing. So if we go to their pricing page here, we can see that, well, they've changed it now. So if you look at their different tiers, we can see that they've changed the CTAs for these different tiers: build, experiment, blah blah blah. From start your free trial, which was the original winner. They've done some iterations since then, and we can see that they've changed it to start building for free. I'm assuming that this further variation did better than start your free trial. But the original control, if you imagine, for these CTA buttons would have been see plans and pricing. Anyway, the learning point here is that emphasizing immediate value and reducing perceived commitment can enhance user engagement. So we're giving in other words, by telling the user that they're going to get a free trial at the end of pressing this button, as a result of that, that's going to reduce the kind of perceived commitment and therefore increase the engagement of the user versus see plans and pricing. Next one I'm going to look at is Basecamp. And Basecamp is an awesome project management tool. They have been around for quite a while too, and very well known in the startup scene. They went from reframing the CTA. So the original CTA was sign up, and then they replaced that CTA with give Basecamp a try. It's free for 60 days. And I don't have the actual results specifically, but the new CTA reduced the friction, encouraged more users to start the trial. So let me have a look at the CTA. So it looks like they've done some further iterations. So it looks like the original, the original winning CTA would have been here, would have been give Basecamp a try. It's free for 60 days. It looks like they've shortened that to try it free for 60 days. So obviously they've done some further iterations there. And the insight here is basically comes down to, if we give a user a risk-free trial, with a friendly tone that it's free for 60 days or 30 days in this case, that you're going to lower the barriers to entry because people will not see that as they've got nothing to lose. So that's the 3 examples, tangible examples, of how well-known brands have used CTAs. And look, you've just got to experiment on your own. You can't really just go ahead and copy what they're doing, but maybe you can be inspired if you're in a similar space to them. And as they say in marketing, always test.